Today, we're going to break down and explain what is the difference between keto, carnivore, and low carb, high fat, and what diet might work best for you. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my very humble channel. Now let's get right on into it. Let's talk about macros, but macros on all three diets. That's keto, omnivore with plants. That's a carnivore diet that's strict, and that is low carb, high fat. I'm going to explain what a macro is, how much for each diet, and a visual of how much, because if you can't visually see it, you don't know how to apply the food. Now, if we start with keto omnivore, that's what I do. Keto omnivore involves high fat. That's your primary macronutrient. You have your carbs, your proteins, and your fats. So the amount of fat that you would consume to be ketotic, this is where you're trying to teach your body to burn fat as fuel rather than your muscles, your collagen, or carbohydrates. The reason why ketosis or being ketotic is enticing to me is because your energy is stable all day long. When your energy is not stable, your body will tend to do what? Eat itself. That's my phone. If you're not in ketosis, your body does what? It eats itself. Got to get energy from somewhere, and I think that's how people make that massive mistake by fasting, food deprivation, going 100 miles an hour without putting gasoline in the tank. If you're on a keto omnivorous diet, you're going to be eating animals and you're going to be eating vegetables. And the reason why I make that distinction, because a lot of people don't understand this distinction, is by saying keto omnivore. And I say that because people are really confused. Do I eat plants? Do I eat fruit? Do I do carnivore? Do I do carnivore with fruit? Everyone's confused. So to be clear, if you do a carnivore diet, you can be in ketosis. And if you do a keto omnivorous diet, you can be in ketosis. What the frack is ketosis? That's a whole video, but the short explanation is having your body use your own fat reserves for energy. And typically, when you grow up on carbohydrates, it is very difficult to access your body fat because your body learns how to store and not to burn. This takes a lot of undoing or unlearning of the body. In today's world, we literally train our bodies to run poorly. We sit wrong, we walk wrong, we don't sleep in the right position, we go to bed too late, we're super toxic. We are exposed to chemicals and forever chemicals and hormonal disruptors. We don't follow a circadian rhythm, and then people think they're being healthy, but they're actually not. They're doing everything counterintuitive. They get excited about these new dietary measures. People hype them to oblivion. They omit tons of truths. Nothing in life is easy. And if it is easy, you might want to think twice before deciding to do something like a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet. What the frack is ketosis? The simplified version is where you train your body to access, or your mind, to access the body fat. A lot of people who do cardio or they're fasting, they think they're accessing their body fat, but y'all know that you're not. You're accessing protein that's in your skin, your collagen, your bone marrow, your ability to make reproductive hormones. And this is a big reason why we see women having difficulties with estrogen dominance, fat deposits. You see women with cellulite and the cottage cheese. Men have low testosterone. Men are having a very difficult time building muscle. So many men are on testosterone. They're on and to build muscle, and it's so unnecessary. If you just slow down, stop going so fast, look in between the lines, and there is the answer with your endocrine system. Getting into ketosis helps you with this wonderment. You're able to stabilize your energy. Basically, being in a state of ketosis is like putting big chunky logs onto a fireplace and keeping your house warm during the winter, and you don't have to keep feeding it with twigs and tinder. You just put the logs there, it burns even. But if you're eating carbs, it's like putting paper into a fireplace. It's going to burn real high, real fast, and then burn out. And you have to keep feeding the fireplace or the wood stove with paper. That's carbohydrates. Even on low carb, high fat, you will have to feed that monster. Trying to balance your blood sugar on carbs is incredibly difficult. It can be done, but most people are so busy, they do not realize the discipline that it takes to eat every 3 hours, keeping their glycogen storages full and their energy levels stable to not have any type of inflammatory reaction. But let's go into carnivore. Carnivore is complicated because nobody seems to know how to define it. I think I should do a whole video on what the frack is carnivore. Is it fruit? Is it like avocados? Is it like drinking wine on the weekends? Because it doesn't seem like people know. In the beginning, people are very dogmatic about being strict, and the only thing that you could have that was glucose dependent was honey. Just ludicrous. But the reality is, carnivore is a great dietary measure, an all-meat diet, like no plants whatsoever, to heal from some type of extreme inflammatory response. It could be eczema, it can be fibromyalgia, it can be feeling sick, bloated, mucus, flu symptoms. It could be great for the short term to just detox from all of these types of foods and stresses, because it's not just the diet, and allow your inflammatory markers to go down. But you can never do a carnivore diet, an all meat diet, without having it be high fat. Just forget about it. There's no such thing as a carnivore high protein. You're gonna, as you guys know, my videos are all about be careful. You can compromise your biliary duct system, your kidneys specifically, your gallbladder specifically. You can create issues with high uric acid levels and gout problems and constipation issues and thyroid issues because you are not getting into ketosis on an all meat, high meat diet without enough fat. So I teach how to do a carnivore diet where you're eating all animal products to get the inflammatory markers down, but it's a high fat carnivore diet, and it's done for 3 to 6 months, or it's done from 6 weeks to 6 months, then go to ketosis land or back to carbs. What type of food are you going to eat on a carnivore diet? Well, obviously you're going to eat all animal food. So you're going to have all fatty meats. You could have ground beef, you can have ribeyes, you can have lamb, you can have bison, you can have fish, fatty fishes like salmon or sardines. You can on occasion have the elk, definitely pork, chicken, yeah, ground turkey thigh, sometimes for those who have histamine. You want a fatty cut of meat because you're trying to drive ketosis. A lot of people eat too much protein, and then they're wondering why they can't get into ketosis. The blood sugar's too high, the ketones are too low, and they develop chronic fatigue, and then all those other things like high protein gives you with the gout and the uric acid and the kidney issues and the thyroid issues and the adrenal issues. But with that said, if you decide to eat a lean meat, crank up the fat, drop the protein. Don't try to feel full off of protein. Try to feel perfect. You want to feel satiated on fat. Speaking of fat, the fat on a carnivore diet should be, you could have tallow, which is beef fat, lard or butter or ghee. Some people do not do well on oils. because their gallbladder is junked up and they might have sludge or stones. So find out if there's something wrong with your gallbladder. If there is, you might want to do fat trimmings in an air fryer, on a grill, or deep fried in its own fat, like deep fried in lard, for example, or tallow. With that said, if you do have a junked up gallbladder, it's kind of interesting because if you're doing fat trimmings in an air fryer, you're actually eating fat on the plate. A lot of people will say, oh, I put like 2 tablespoons of tallow in a pan, and I don't even count that as your total 200 grams of fat. Electrolytes on anything low carb, doesn't matter if it's keto, omnivore, or low carb, high fat, but especially carnivore, is a massive problem. People are not getting enough potassium, because you can get potassium in avocados, but if you're doing an all meat diet or meat fat, you're not getting a lot of potassium. And people have like facial twitching, and their ribs will lock up or their calves will lock up. And the heart palpitations, people think that they're having heart issues when really the heart is not getting enough potassium. You might have to go the supplemental route. But if you do not, then you have to consider meat broth, because you're getting more potassium without all the meat. It's in a broth, not bone broth, but meat broth. You also have things like seafood, oysters, oyster extract specifically, more grams of potassium in the meat of the desiccated oyster rather than just eating whole oysters. There's some stuff to consider when it comes to your electrolytes. You have to consider your magnesium. You cannot do these low carb diets without magnesium, potassium, and balancing it off with salt and drinking enough water. And the last we have is low carb, high fat. People don't know what that is. Low carb, high fat is when you're still eating carbs. You're not driving ketosis. On a carnivore diet and a keto omnivorous diet, you are trying to drive ketosis. High fat, moderate to low protein. On keto omnivore, barely any plant matter, just enough to balance your gut microbiome. But low carb, high fat, you can still have red potato, sweet potato, white rice, parsnip. You can have things like raw carrots, some berries, maybe if you don't have a fructose intolerance. That's what you got. You can have cruciferous vegetables, you can have yellow squash, whereas summer squash may not be ideal on a ketogenic diet because there's too many carbohydrates in it, and that can kick you out of ketosis or make it very difficult to ever enter ketosis, because the body's not going to compete sugar with ketones. Not. Glucose will always win, and then you go through the ups and downs with your blood sugar. The point is to get into ketosis, and that's high fat and very moderate to low protein and almost no carbs. Very low carbs. No sugars, low carbs. I hear donkeys and horses outside my window, and it's distracting me through this whole video. But I digress. Stay tuned. And for those who need help, real help, book a consultation. Talk to me one-on-one, because I get people asking me complicated questions in the comment section. They want to know things about cancer or fibromyalgia or their leaky gut, histamine, thyroid, and it's kind of hard without knowing more details. But for the simple questions, have at it. Comment below. Tell me if you are trying to decide what dietary measure will work best for you. If you have a gallbladder problem, you might start with low carb, high fat, right? You got to lower the fat to give that gallbladder a break as you're trying to work out the stones or sludge. You would do a carnivore diet if you have no gallbladder issue and you have some inflammatory response to something or eczema. If you just want to balance your dang blood sugar and keep the inflammatory markers down, keto omnivore. Comment below if you don't know what dietary measure to choose, or if you need a consultation. I also run a course where I cover all 3 diets. It's a $15 a month subscription membership. And of course, the challenge is coming. It's a 30-day challenge. It's $1 a day, 30 days, and it will have all this information I talk about. My next video, I'm going to do a quick breakdown of the amounts of food. But in the challenge, I will really break it down. Like, we going there. What diet do you think works best for you? And don't tell me it's carnivore with fruit. And I'm out. Peace.